People, Deluded, I'm back again. Thank you very much for tuning back in and watching my stuff each and every time. Good morning to you. It's obviously, what's the time? Basically 7:45. I thought I'd talk to you a lot about a few things. The first one I want to speak about, and it's nothing of something really, I didn't really want to speak about it, so I'll just offer my thoughts. I know a lot of you have probably caught wind of the social media storm. Allegedly Ozil and Emery look like they're having some sort of argument, allegedly in training. It's a bit like the Jose and the Pogba thing. I mean, I wasn't available on my socials too much yesterday, but when I saw it, I just thought, it's something of nothing really, but I know people are going to speak about it. And then Ozil obviously popped the picture saying, "You make me laugh." Whether that's a cryptic message to Emery or to the media trying to make a circus for obvious reasons of Ozil and Emery not getting on. It is what it is, people. So I thought I'd mention that. Shout out to Eddie Nketiah. He obviously scored for Leeds off the bench in the 10 minutes he got. No understanding why Bielsa won't start him. Hopefully he's done all he can to start at the weekend. Saliba looked very convincing against Bordeaux, people. I meant to do a video about that, but I've been lazy. So shout out to our loanees looking promising at their respective clubs. Moving away from that, people, and Emery. Now, Emery's been in the spotlight a bit, I think it's fair to say, people. Obviously, it's mainly due to Arsenal versus Sheffield and the fact we haven't been too convincing this season. Now, I've seen a lot of calls to sack him, and I don't agree with that. I mean, let me rephrase that. If you believe obviously, if something mad happens, if we don't get out of this December, early January period, respect in terms of the league position and points tallies, in that it doesn't look feasible that we're going to get the top four or that we're in this race, then he potentially has to be moved on. But I'm seeing some calls to sack him tomorrow or today, basically, in October. I mean, I have question marks over if Emery is the man to take this long term and if he's the man to get us top four. But I don't feel it would be wise to sack him right now, purely because there's still a lot to play for. We're fifth, I believe. Let me see if Siri works. Siri, Premier League table.
These are the standings for the Premier League from the current season.
Is that what you're on? Yeah, you work first time. You're not he's showing off for you lot, people. We don't never work first time, but we're fifth. 15 points. Chelsea have 17. Leicester have 17. Obviously, Liverpool on 25 and Manchester City are on 19. Them two teams are irrelevant to what we're doing because we can't catch them. But perspective, like, we in our opening 9 games, we have not been convincing, but we're fifth right now, people. Does it make sense? Because mathematically it's still achievable. I mean, Crystal Palace are sick, no disrespect to them. I don't want to be the guy to say it, but if we go on a winning run, what is going to be said? Personally, if you think we should get rid of him in May, or if results continue to deteriorate, I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying sacking him today or tomorrow, or really off the back of Sheffield United in the previous 8 games and just how he's been so far. I wouldn't agree with that, because surely if he was to bring in another manager, or what many people expect, when Emery does go, Lumber to take over, if Emery was to get sacked tomorrow, Lombard comes in as interim. I have full faith in Lombard. I think everyone will get behind him because he's a former Arsenal player and all of these things. But my thing would be, he's come in. Surely the same things to a degree with Lombard that we were saying with Emery would have to persist. He couldn't be judged on the season really, because it's a mess that he would have to kind of clean up, sort of thing. So we'll be writing off a season which could potentially be promising. Right now there's still a lot to play for. We've played 9 games. There's however many Premier League games left, people. So you'd have to, would you lot really feel confident writing off the season, no matter how frustrated we are right now already? You'd have to obviously write off the season. We'd still be saying the same things as to, is it his squad? Has he got the players he wants? All of this. Now, clearly Lombard likes the young players, and for the season he'd have to use these players. But the same things we're saying for Emery in his first year, we'd have to start again, really and truly, people. For me, if we're going to get rid of Emery, or the club don't believe he's the man, I believe, unless results deteriorate in the next few weeks, you look to move him on in May. Because I'm not going to lie, people, I have concerns over Emery, because he needs, obviously, I'm not saying he needs to make us league champions tomorrow. He needs time, but I'm asking myself, time for what? Obviously, last season, it was trial and error sort of thing. He's getting to know the players. For me, just me assuming, it's come out really didn't feel Torreira. When I looked at he tried to get Fabinho and Nzonzi, he used Torreira out necessity. He's not on it. Aubameyang's putting in crosses. He's top goal scorer, but he's putting in crosses for people shorter than him and not as deadly up front as him. What else is... Apologies, people. Sitting outside. there's all of these sort of things. Like I still think you would need time, like as the years go by. But it's time for what? How is the team shaping up? He's been here long enough. The big one for me was defensively. I don't expect to be able to defend like a prime Italian side of the 80s, which I wasn't seeing. But we should look better defensively in that we're looking a bit more like people are switched on. Even if we're still making the same mistakes, if people are a bit switched on and it looks like they're a bit more proactive rather than reactive in their thinking, then it would be decent. Defensively, we still look a shambles, and it's not as white and black as fans are saying in that Holding, the Bellerins, the Tierney's coming to the side. Obviously, they're good players and are better options, but them coming into the side does not automatically make us better defenders, people. It really doesn't, or a better defensive team. There's no balance in midfield. In fact, beyond the fact that I like Torreira, Guendouzi, Xhaka obviously starts, there's no real anything from our midfield. We're not combative, we're not creative, there's nothing in our midfield. They don't help out defensively really, and a lot of that is due to the players, but it's down to coaching. Our attacking players, now we should not have Aubameyang, Lacazette, Pepe for the form he's in and still be wondering how we get the best out of them, or wondering how do we make them excel more. There's not really one attacking player playing to their full potential in my opinion, through not necessarily no fault of their own. I know Aubameyang scoring mad goals and whatnot, but when I say playing to his potential, could we get more goals out of him? How many times is Aubameyang isolated and by himself? Imagine we got service behind him and we got next to him. How many more goals potentially could he score? Do you get it? So I would say people keep talking about time for Emery, but time for what? But me, I'm really looking at what he's doing now because I like him. I want him to do well, but I love my club more. And when I look at the fact that I don't want to be this club that sacks man and does that whole circus stuff, there's not really nothing to suggest he stays. Now, there are some positives and negatives, half glass or empty, half full sort of thing, whatever it's called. Because we missed out by a point in the league last year and we got to the Europa League final. We know, if we're being cynical, we were expected to get to the Europa League final and we did not put the right performance in. And we missed out by a point in the for the top 4 race. But is it really a point, or do you go through the micro results where we didn't start games well and drew and lost where we shouldn't have? Big games where we've done stupid things and didn't get away with them. Drawing when you don't need to. Failing to get to grips with the mental aspect of the game, because similar to this year, like on Monday, our rivals played before us and it's a game of chicken again. It's like everybody's bottling. If we don't get top 4, it's down to us. That's not me saying we're better than Spurs, we're better than Chelsea, we're better than United. I just think it's a thing where, regardless of the form of these teams, it's a level playing ground. There's potentially 2 Champions League spaces up for grabs, 3rd and 4th. Liverpool and City are nailed done for Champions League unless something mad happens. We will be our enemy. Like last year, the only reason we got top 4 is not necessarily because teams are better than us, it's because we messed up. In recent years, I would say last year, well, probably this year now, but last year, prior to this season, last year, out of the 4 or 5 year period, however long Pochettino's been there, that's probably the, and for want of better words, worst season as a Spurs fan in terms of how they've been and what they've been doing. Do you know, we finished behind them. Spurs still managed to finish ahead of us. Now, for them, that's great. But for us, what does that show? What does that show? It's about the building blocks. And I can't lie, I don't really see them. I see that we immediately play out from the back and it's fantastic. But I don't see any intention. I don't have a problem with playing out from the back. But what is our intention from playing out from the back? Pep Guardiola, obviously, well, our team's not there, the manager's not there. No disrespect to either party. But there's a purpose to him. You know he's playing out from the back to provoke the opposition to making mistakes and whatnot. The whole point of playing out from the back is obviously to get to try and hit your team, not on the counter necessarily, but break as much as possible and whatnot. The ball comes into Xhaka, and for Xhaka's criticism, it's not always his fault. There's no movement for the man in possession, and there's no real intent. When the centre-halves pull, when the full-backs go slightly higher, when the midfielders drop, what is our intent? And I have to say, our intent doesn't necessarily mean to score. Look like we want to score. Obviously, to win football games, you have to score. Obviously, we've scored a lot of goals last season and this season so far, people. But I'm pretty sure you get the point. Moving on, well, a bit of statistics on Eddie. He's only the 2nd player in Leeds future. Let me start again. Eddie is only the 2nd player in Leeds United's history to score as many as 3 league goals before starting a league game for the club, along with Davide Suma in 2010. Now, I don't know that player, but Leeds fans, you do. Interesting stat. I know Emery likes fullbacks. Emery likes the cutbacks and the crosses, and he's got one on the bench that, despite barely playing for Arsenal, Kieran Tierney has made more successful crosses from open play than any other Arsenal player. but the second is Aubameyang. Now, if the second is now credit to Aubameyang. Now, no disrespect to Aubameyang at all. He's scoring goals and crossing. But am I the only one concerned if our top goal scorer is up there for crosses? Is he in the middle of the field? He should be up there for attempted headers from crosses or some other new statistic or whatever. Why is he there? You see how mad this is kind of sounding? And I'm having a tough time dealing with or trying to understand and comprehend what we're actually doing. Apparently, Emery's hit at his critics and whatnot, and he has said, sometimes we forget the memory and we need to remember when I arrived, this team needed to be more competitive. I think last year I started to improve being competitive with some very good matches, playing with creativity. Now that's pushing it a bit. I did think we are a bit more competitive. I look at the one game I praise you for is Liverpool at home. I feel you married you being pragmatic and thinking about the opposition with us being attacking, but I wouldn't say we've been more competitive. There was a period where there was a bit more fight, and to be fair, you look at the United game, I think on one hand we was poor, on the other hand we did well to come from behind and whatnot, so I'll give you that, but I think you're overselling it a bit. We're not playing with any creativity, Emery. Sometimes, obviously, we all see football differently, but I'm having a hard time dealing with your comments sometimes, especially post-games. It's like, what were you watching? And he's also said, we are in the process. Wait, here we go. No, wait, there's more. This year, we are in a process, but we need patience because our strategy as a club is with some new players and some young players. We changed 10 players and are continuing being competitive. Creativity, maybe we lost a bit, but I know we're going to recover that. How are we going to recover that if whatever you're doing on the coaching front is not clearly working in terms of link-up play and them things there? How are you going to improve creativity? And I'm not going to be the one to say Ozil, blah, 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 but we let Ramsey go. You're not using Ozil. Ceballos is barely playing 90 minutes. I love Joe in the 10. I love Joe in general, but his skill set is not breaking the lines. What are you doing? There's been no plan to really combat the lack of creativity in this side, so I don't really know what you're talking about. You are right. We do need patience and we do need a process, but for me, I need to see what you're trying to do with this process and patience. Like I don't expect us to be able to play like a fully fledged Manchester City team, for example, tomorrow. But I want to see some building blocks. Rome wasn't built in a day, but I want to see I want to see some bricks. I want to see some cement. I want to, see some scaffolding and all them things there. And I think we've regressed. Like, there was a period, Emery, you was doing this thing, but I think we've regressed. I clocked when we started regressing at set pieces, because at one point, statistics might not back it, but I was very confident offensively and defensively set pieces under Unai Emery. That's quickly gone, people. You see the Sheffield United game last year, I wasn't surprised if we defended well against that, but I don't know what's going on. And I think the defensive mistakes have been there from last season, pre-season. I know there was injuries and whatnot, but there was a good opportunity to kind of get everybody in touch defensively. And it don't matter if it was the Munich game, the Barca game, all of the Madrid game, Florentina when we conceded, if forgive me if I mispronounced it and whatnot. The errors have been there. It looks like there's been no real emphasis on improving defensively. That's not me being harsh, we probably have, but just me as a fan looking at it, people. He's also said, there are a lot of supporters with different opinions. Some want more creativity, some want more intensity, more energy. I want both, and my idea is both. My idea is to be competitive with creativity, and that's what all our fans want, Emery. So I don't know what you're talking about, really. He said, we need to win, we need to achieve our targets, and then it's about how we can play better, and then how we can show and transmit to our supporters all they want to see in our team. Playing with energy, with a good combination, with a very big intensity. I can't lie, Emery, you do talk a very good game, man. And because we wanted a new manager so much, and obviously it was stale under Wenger. There wasn't much to look forward to. You was a breath of fresh air, intensity, Spanish work ethic, all of these things. You spoke of being a protagonist and all of these things, and that's refreshing to what could be classed as depressed Arsenal fans. And it's like they hung on your words, and it's like, we've got through the euphoria of you coming now. I'm seeing you talk a good game, but I'm not necessarily seeing these things, or I don't necessarily think it has to be the finished product. I'm not seeing any building blocks to suggest we're getting there of significance. I would love to sit here in a year and say, yo, you was tweaking, but that's how I feel as a fan right now, and I'm not going to say any different. And he said, we are in a process. Why are we in a process? We change players because we're taking young players and giving them chances. We're not saying you can train with us, but you're on the bench on Sunday. I think most people agree. I think the young players are an exception to the rule. Like, we love Saka, but nobody's going to blame Saka for him having not the best of games against Sheffield United or not making a difference. Because reality is, the players have to take the chances, but the Sakas, the Joes, Nelsons, all these young Martinellis, you can't expect them to make the difference for us. It should be the more, if not experienced by age, the more senior players by games played. And then these guys, because I look at it, when stuff's going wrong at Sheffield United, who does Joe and Saka look to? Because it's like they're looking around, and people with way more caps for their country and all these things, they're looking like headless chickens. So who do they look to kind of guide them through it and say, yo, listen, you get it, like, calm it down, we're going to get through this, guide them through it. Obviously, Emery's got to do that, and probably Lundberg does that, but on the field, like, well, go on for that. So, we know we're in the process, but the ultimate thing is process for what, Emery? What are you trying to do here? Because like, the Wolves are out. I've made videos about this. The Wolves are out. There's serious question marks. There was a lot of energy to proclaim, how we got better last season, how we're different under Wenger, how there's fight, how there's this, how there's that, especially during the unbeaten period. And I have to ask, where is that same energy really to not bash the manager and want him out, but to ask questions of what's going on in terms of on the field? Because we're not looking convincingly. We're not looking convincing in one single aspect of our game, people. And that pains me to say. And that hurts me as an Arsenal fan to say. I don't want Emery to get sacked. I don't want players, all this circus stuff. I want us to all be on the same page. But if it continues, then we've got to look at what we're doing in May. And arguably, even if he was to get top four and potentially get to Europa League final and win it, there's a case of potentially moving him on and looking to bring someone else in. I'm not saying I want that to happen. I'm just using that as an example, people. But there's really not much more for me to add, so I'm going to get out of here. People, Deluded, thank you for watching and rocking as usual. God bless. I'm out.